Alrighty, so I wanted to make a video talking about the first floor of Hraesvelgr's nest, which is the bird boss, and I'm going to try to do sort of a, I guess, play-by-play almost, or just sort of like a guide for the floor itself, and I wanted to go over some of the details and everything like that. So yeah. We are going to tackle floor 1 today. So the first thing you need to know is that he doesn't take any sort of like extra attribute damage or anything like that. Just because he's red doesn't mean you need to bring in blue units. Another thing to note is that for this entire fight, although he does have a lot of passives and stuff like that, and you should definitely read over these, the pattern description also has a really decent amount of information that you should probably take into account, because it doesn't play into the passives, and it's just sort of like additional information that you kind of need to know in certain scenarios. So for the first one, he is immune to reflect damage, deals spike damage on single targets, and uses a skill which applies bleed on all enemies. So that's honestly nothing too crazy. Honestly, as far as I can tell, for the first floor, you basically just want to build up as many power strike cards as possible, so that way when you get to phase 4, you can actually deal damage to him and hopefully wipe or kill him, obviously not wipe. In phase 2, it says its ultimate move deals weak point damage to all enemies, so it's important to use skills which remove debuffs. So you can cleanse on phase 2, that would be good. The demonic beast is immune to reflect damage, deals damage to single targets after removing buffs, and uses skills which ignite enemies. You must pay close attention to remove debuffs and buff skills in battle, and to use buff skills in battle. And then for the last phase, it says, this is the most important one really. Honestly, even though there are effects and stuff like that for the first 3 phases, I normally don't have too many issues out of those. The 4th phase is just the biggest problem in getting the cards that you need to go into the 4th phase, so that way you can actually beat it, because in this one, if you don't deal damage, you basically lose. So the demonic beast is immune to reflect damage, and its defense greatly increases at the start of the battle. If it does not take damage, it deals corrosive damage on all enemies based on max HP. In addition, it restricts the recovery effects of all enemies after 3 turns, then increases its attack. The battle becomes increasingly harder as it continues. So you can survive through this if you can't deal enough damage to actually beat it within the first 3 phases, or the first 3 turns. But after that, he's basically going to get a huge increase in his attack, and he's going to start actually dealing a lot more damage. The best thing that you can do is just use power strike cards. One thing to note is I do actually have the the card set. I can't remember what the name of this card set is specifically, but it is called, where is it? Does it not show up because I already have it equipped? I don't know. Either way, you can see what cards it has right here. It's something with an I, if I'm not mistaken. Like if I change this, can I go into the artifact? Yeah, so Guardian of Istal is the one that you want, because this one is going to, if an ally is debuffed from a skill during the enemy's turn, restores 5% of their maximum HP, and they put on a lot of debuffs. So getting that little bit of HP back is really nice. Obviously, Matrona is going to do another like bit of like passive healing for us because of her passive. Very, very nice to have Matrona. If you don't have her, I don't know that there's really like a substitute for her specifically, but you want to have somebody who can taunt and remove buffs for the second floor, definitely. So if you're trying to go for longevity, you can probably pick a different team than this and just go for straight up like maybe like raw damage or something like that to just farm floor 1 over and over again. But this one is the most consistent and like the best results that I've gotten for a team, so this is just the one that I'm going to be using. Obviously, go through is to pretty much rank up. Margaret is good for, you know, taking less damage and cleansing debuffs and stuff. And then Brunhild is going to be our, you know, big damage dealer. You can use Sariel. I think Sariel is really good for the fight, but I just prefer Brunhild because she uses 2 single target attacks, and she just seems a little bit more catered towards this fight specifically. So here we go. Like I said, a lot of these early phases don't really give me too much trouble. It's normally just depending on the RNG that I get, and how well I can sort of get past phase 4, because that's really the hardest one. Normally for these, I just go ahead and waste both of those cards and that, and then I'll go ahead and attack with Brunhild or Margaret. just basically trying to clear out some card space in hand. I'm pretty sure for the first 2 phases of this one, he actually doesn't take reduced damage at all. Like, he doesn't have like a damage cap that you can deal to him, because later on in the fight, he only takes, I think, 30% of his maximum HP as damage. Like, he can only take 30% of his max HP, so he's basically limited. Like, you can only do like 160,000 or something like that for most of the phases. It varies a little bit because he has different amounts of HP for different phases, but we did pull an extra power strike card, which is really, really nice. I think we're just going to go ahead and use these cards here and rank up on Brunhild. But the big thing here is it's almost like a really tough situation sometimes, because, you know, you want to merge for card space, but at the same time you don't want to merge your power strike cards, because then you're not going to be able to like, you're going to have less cards in hand, or like less power strike cards. And if you can get lucky with rank ups, you can end up doing very, very good damage with these. But it really just depends when you go into the last phase, depending on what level of, you know, Margaret buff you have, along with what cards you have in hand. It can be a little bit easier to get across, but I think we're just going to go ahead and waste all of these cards. Yeah, the detonate does really, really good damage in these first 2 phases because of no damage cap or anything like that, which is really, really nice. So phase 1 is pretty easy, nothing too crazy there. We do have some bleed stacks on, like a bleed stack on each person, but really that's not a huge deal. We're just going to waste these cards, I think, and I think we're just going to move that for an ult, because I kind of want to use the detonate card to get, you know, just more cards in hand, but at the same time, if we save it for this phase, we'll be able to do more damage when he gets more ultimate gauge. So that should end up doing really nice damage. If I can get another taunt, that would be really good, because for some reason I guess because he is technically a red unit, the AI of the game just like is like, oh, he is green, I need to attack him, and it just absolutely destroys Gothers. So this is actually perfect scenario right here. So if we use the detonate card first, he has all level 2 cards in hand, so if we use Matrona's ult there, it will de-rank all of those, so we hopefully take less damage. I think we should be able to kill this phase, so I'm just going to go ahead and use both of those. I maybe should have used the other attack card first, so that way if I would have killed with it, then it wouldn't have wasted my ult. I don't necessarily know that that would have completely killed, but it's a possibility. I could have kept the ult for the next phase, but this phase is kind of where it gets a little bit, you know, closer. You know, you're just trying to make sure that you can get the cards that you need to beat the phase, whereas in the same time you need to make sure that you're building up cards for the last phase. So we're going to merge those, because having a really nice Margaret buff going into the last phase is really, really good. We're going to go ahead and taunt up since she's at full HP, and we're going to take some heat off of Gother. We'll go ahead and heal up a little bit with everybody just to deal damage off as well, and then let's go ahead and waste the Matrona card here. So that hit damage cap actually at 137. We got another one of these. I'm almost tempted to go ahead and use it and just keep a level 2 buff for the last phase, because you can see he's starting to put on ignite effects, and it would be nice to have a little bit of actual damage reduction. He does remove buffs on this phase as well, which I think what it said was if it removes buffs from a character, it puts on ignite stacks. So we're going to go ahead and try to cleanse those off. Obviously, it's going to put buffs on us as well, so these characters could end up getting ignite stacks as well. But we're not really too worried about that at the moment. He's not going to use his ult next turn. Hopefully we can get a detonate card from Brunhild, so we can hopefully deal a good amount of damage with it. But if not, we'll just have to see what we get in hand. We may end up needing to dip into our power strikes, but I'd really like to avoid that as much as possible. The ult actually isn't going to deal like crazy damage. And with these cards in hand, I really don't think we're going to be able to kill, especially with the damage cap. It's possible, maybe, though. I think we're going to go ahead and use that. so we can cleanse go through as well. And then let's just use those 3 cards. I really need to just stay away from the power strikes as much as possible because I need them for the last phase. So boom, that hit damage cap. That was at 150, so maybe 137 was not the damage cap. Gother, can you finish this? He does finish this. Okay, so this is where it gets very tricky. Our RNG it needs to be fantastic here, pretty much. We've got good RNG, kinda. I really just need to, I'm gonna rank up. We're gonna go ahead and use that. We're gonna use both of these to clear card space. And that means we have 1 in hand still, so that way we can hopefully deal, I mean, it'll still deal damage for sure. But I would like to try to beat the phase entirely if possible. So 156 is the damage cap on this one. So now we're at 60% of his HP gone. We have 40% left to deal with if I can pull Power Strike cards, which I seem to not be able to. If I can... okay, yeah, my... unfortunately, Margaret doesn't have any ultimate gauge. I was going to say I could maybe use her ult to get a little bit further, but all of these cards pretty much except for the Power Strike are going to Patience. So I think I'm going to use the Power Strike. I don't have anything that I can merge either, so let's just try to get rid of cards in hand if possible. I think we'll just get rid of both of those just because for whatever reason. And then basically, if I don't pull a Power Strike card here, I lose. So sometimes Margaret's regular card can actually deal damage because it does charge, which is kind of nice, but it's really going to be RNG right here. We did, okay, thank God. We pulled Power Strike cards, which is really, really good. I'm taking a little bit more damage than I would hope to because the big thing is we're going to have to stay alive going into floor 2 with this team, and Gother is almost dead, so that's really, really bad. Luckily, we have a cleanse in hand. If we didn't have a cleanse, we would legitimately lose right here, but we can use those to, or use the cleanse to clear off the attack seal, and then I should actually be able to deal damage. So this was okay, not a perfect run. Obviously, in better situations, you end with more HP, so that way you can go into floor 2 a little bit better. I'll try to mess around and see what we get. The fact that I pulled a blue crystal is actually really, really nice. It's honestly going to depend a lot on RNG whether or not we can even clear floor 2 with Gother being this low. If I'll try it a couple of times and see how it goes, but if not, we may end up having to reset so that way we can do a floor 2 guide. But that is pretty much it for floor 1. It's not too complicated, really. Like I said, the first 3 phases really aren't that big of a deal. There's a little bit of strategy involved with it, but honestly, the biggest thing is making sure that you get those Power Strike cards in hand, and you still are able to, with your hand full of just cards that you can't use that turn, being able to finish the other phases as well. So it just kind of depends on your RNG and your willingness to get rid of some cards, maybe. Like you need to empty your hand out as much as possible so that way you can pull the cards that you need. And then sometimes, like if you get too many Power Strike cards too early, your hand's going to get clogged up with them, and you may end up you may end up needing to use them to clear some of the earlier phases, but then you got to worry about RNG giving you more Power Strike cards later, and it's just a whole ordeal. Honestly, it's really, really, really dumb in my opinion. It just makes it kind of tedious and annoying to actually try to farm the stage. But like I said, the first floor is really not that bad if you have the team for it and you have your gear and everything like that situated. Obviously, it's just luck. Luck is the biggest factor for that last phase. But that's pretty much it for me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully this helped. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. I'll try to help out if I can. I know that a lot of people might not end up having this specific team, or maybe you're missing some of these characters or whatever the case may be. Obviously, this is supposed to be a very, very end game sort of content game mode, so it's not going to be easy to, you know, beat with, you know, just any old random team. But a friend of mine does try out a ton of different teams, and he's, you know, showed me several different teams using like Chandler and Gloxinia and Goddess Elizabeth, and like he's used all kinds of different characters. He's even used Red Fat King and beat floor 1 with him. So I mean, there's definitely, you know, units that you can use that aren't super like meta like these are, but it just takes a little bit of time and, you know, messing around with it and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And it really takes a good understanding of the game, of how your passives are going to work out and how his passives are going to hinder you in certain situations, and how to play around those sort of things. So that's it from me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Feel free to subscribe for more content in the future, and I will see you guys in the next one.